have had a feast this morning. A greasy McFeast, if you will.
Yeah, most of the time I'll usually grab us a biscuit and a coffee. And this morning, they handed me a couple of bags, and I didn't really think much about it. And so when I got here, I looked in the bag, and we had somebody else's order.
In addition to
the order that we had.
So it was a total of like 2 biscuits, like 3 McMuffins, and like a breakfast platter.
Yeah. But like I said, they fucked my order up so many times that maybe I was owed one.
Yeah, this is karma.
Yeah, it's karma.
Yeah. Universal balance.
Yeah. Yeah, McDonald's is like notorious. Maybe it's just like where we live, because I've heard like from other people that live in different areas of the country, they're like, oh, McDonald's isn't that bad. Like they usually get my order pretty right. They're pretty quick. So maybe it's just like where we live. Like McDonald's just fucking sucks.
Maybe. I mean, I've even heard people say that the particular one that you went to I've heard people say that it has some of the best customer service.
That's saying something.
And I don't know, maybe you just keep catching like the morning shift and they're just like they're not like, up to snuff or whatever.
No, their morning shift is actually probably their best shift.
Really?
Yeah. Their night shift is fucking horrendous. Horrendous.
I can't tell you the last time I went to that McDonald's off the interstate there in town next to
they're bad
Ingles
too.
Or whatever.
Yeah, they're really bad.
It's been ages since I've been to that one. I haven't been to that one since before they remodeled it.
Yeah.
Because it used to have the original McDonald's look to it, you know? Yeah, it's been a minute. I really don't... It's funny because like that little area of town is kind of a pain to get in and out of.
Oh, yeah, everything there is just...
And then it's like, what even is worth going over there for?
Chick-fil-A.
Is Arby's and...
But Chick-fil-A's on the other side next to the racetrack.
Yeah, and that one's hard to get out of, too. Especially if you hang a left and you go to turn right onto 78 by the CVS. Like, good fucking luck.
Yeah, no, it's not
God
gonna
forbid
happen.
you want to turn left and go east down 78.
Yeah, you're going to make a lot of people mad.
It's kind of funny. I've been playing this game called City Skylines. Mm-hmm. It was free on Game Pass, so I just downloaded it. And it's kind of like it's kind of like SimCity, I guess. I played SimCity a real long time ago, and all I remember is that you make a city.
No.
And so I think that might be where the similarities begin and end with these two games. But you start out with nothing. You start like a plot of land, and you got to build roads, and then you got to zone out areas for residential areas, commercial areas, industrial, blah blah blah, whatever. And the city. It's really funny because when you start out, you start trying to build a city the way that you like have seen cities look, but that doesn't like cohere with like how the game mechanics work.
No.
So you'll have things like there's not enough water, there's not enough sewage systems. People like the people like the windmill for energy, but they don't want it near their house. And then so the city that I've got going now is just a giant grid. It's just a grid of skyscrapers. It's a hellscape, but it works efficiently. Wesley and I, before we started recording, we're having a conversation about the Fallout games. And Fallout 4, so Fallout 4 had, it changed a lot from 3 in New Vegas. It was still a 3D Fallout, and you still, a lot of like the core combat mechanics were the same, but they changed a lot about like the way the dialogue works, and they even changed the way like your perks work. Like they changed that as well. But they added a lot of stuff. They added like there was always a crafting mechanic, but it was very very bare bones.
Oh.
They added like kind of a more fleshed out crafting mechanic. They had a lot of ideas, I think.
No.
They didn't really polish any of it. It's kind of like it's big, but it's very jagged, very unwieldy. But one of the things that they added to the game was the workshop thing, where you could build a settlement.
Yep.
And I thought that was really cool because it was like you have all these different settlements where like people can come live. People from the wasteland can come live there. They can, tend crops, and they can be, merchants, like sell you things, and like you can have like a doctor and like stuff like that. And I always liked to build a giant fence all the way around the perimeter,
right,
to make sure that they're safe, because enemies can come in from any which way. So I started out like with the first one, I would, before knowing how the game worked, like how the mechanics of the game worked.
No.
I built this giant fence all the way around the thing, and I built towers with turrets on it, and I had all this stuff going on. Well, the game, if it can spawn an enemy to attack your settlement, and they can't get in from the outside, they'll spawn on the inside. And all my turrets were facing outwards. I never considered anybody being inside.
Right.
So I remember, like, I came back to my settlement, and, like, there was, like, 4 or 5 people there, and, like, they're just, like, normal people. Like, I had, like, a couple dudes farming, and, like, one dude was, like, repairing something. I don't know. And I came back, and, like, there was, like, 3 super mutants inside the gate.
Yeah.
And they each had, like, miniguns, and they just mowed down all my fucking settlers. And I was like, well, it was really disheartening to spend it took me a long time to do that. I spent like 5 or 6 hours getting all that, just doing that, before I even went and played the game. And then I came back and they were all slaughtered because of game mechanics.
Yeah. Imagine that shitty if statement they wrote. It's like, if gate, yes. Then spawn inside gate.
Spawn inside gate. And I was just like, man, that I feel like that's a common thing that happens, especially nowadays, where like I'll spend a whole lot of time, doing something in a game where I'm like trying to, build a foundation for whatever my play style, whatever it is, whatever I'm trying to do, spend a lot of time doing it and sink a lot of time and effort into it. And then at some point later down the road, there's this game mechanic that I was either unaware of, or I didn't know exactly how it works.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't mesh with what I was trying to do.
Right.
And it was like, well, that's a lot of sunken time. I was like, now I'm thinking about, okay, all those other settlements where I went and built walls around, none of that meant anything, because they're all just going to get killed anyway. I remember, like, so every, like, 2 or 3 years, I'll get, like, the hankering to play Minecraft.
No.
And I'm like, I'll just play a little bit of Minecraft. And I like Minecraft because it's super chill. It's just, you don't have to really, you can kind of just turn your brain off and play it.
Right.
And so I made this thing where they have villagers in the game that you can trade with, and they can each have, like, you can give them a different profession. So you can have, like, a guy who's, like, a librarian who can sell books, or, like, a armorer, blacksmith, whatever, so on and so forth. And I made this thing that was basically like a big slave hall where I had them all backed up into these corners that they couldn't get out of, but that I could access. Yeah. Because I didn't want them wandering around. Yeah. I wanted them where I could get to them. Yeah. So I had like this line of like, I don't know, 11 or 12 librarians.
No.
And each librarian, I have to go to a village and get a villager and bring him back to where my place is, and then stick him in the corner, and then I have to keep trading with him to make sure he's got the book that I want. Yeah. And each one could take anywhere from like 2.5 to 3 hours. Yeah. And I got all the way to like the last guy, and I got him in there, and then I noticed like, so they have little workstations, and that's how they get their jobs. Like you have a regular villager. And depending on what workstation you put down in front of him, will give him his particular job. Yeah. When I stuck him in there, I noticed that he wasn't taking a job. Yeah. Like he was still just a normal villager, even though the little thing was there. And I was like, well, what the fuck's happening? And then I noticed that he was like, he wasn't looking at me. He was kind of looking over to the side and down. And I was like, oh no, he's locked onto another guy's workstation. Yeah. And then I took a step back and I looked at all of them, and they were all crisscrossed. Which meant that they couldn't refill their inventory, which meant that all that time was for nothing. No. And I was like, well, I guess I'm done with Minecraft for another 2 or 3 years. It's like I haven't even really played the game yet. I was trying to get started. Yeah. So that's why I like games where you just kind of have to, you either play it the way they want you to play it or you don't play it at all.
Right.
Because then I don't have to worry about fucking myself over.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why sometimes I like to play just like a sports game.
Yeah.
Because it's very cut and dry.
Yeah.
This is what you're doing.
Right.
This is the purpose of the game. Score as many points as you can.
Right. It's like you're not going to play a sports game, like you're playing like a Madden game. And like you're like 9 hours into the game.
There's no crafting mechanic here.
Yeah, there's no stealth mechanic.
You like crouch down.
There's like you get like 9 hours into the game, but like you didn't know that like sometimes the stadium will collapse.
Yeah. Although a lot of us are really excited because they're bringing back the NCAA football game, which was massively successful when it was out for 360.
How many of those were there? I feel like
it stopped in 14 because they essentially were using the likeness of NCAA players without paying them.
Oh.
So with the new NIL deals that they're signing with everybody, where people are getting paid for their likeness, even though they're in college, then now they can bring the game back.
So some kind of like a licensing issue.
Yeah, because it wasn't one of those things. It's like they were essentially making money off of the kids that were in school without the kids in school getting the money. Right.
Yeah.
So now with the NIL deals, EA Sports can go back and be like, we'll pay you $1,000, $2,000 to use your likeness in the game.
And if you're a broke college kid, you're like,
fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, well, if you're some kid that's in college and you want to go play the NCAA game, you're like, there I am. I'm in the fucking game.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking cool.
Yeah. And they gave me $2,000.
Right.
I've already spent it, but... Yeah. So what is NIL?
It's like name, image, likeness. And so there's some kids that are in college that are making like $2 million a year in NIL deals. Yeah.
Wow. I remember there was a big stink a couple years back about some college football player that was like selling his jerseys or...
Yeah, that was A.J. Green. He went to the University of Georgia.
So what was the issue with that? Like
he had like signed a game-worn jersey that was in his possession. He owned it, and then he like sold it to somebody, and they're like, you can't do that.
Why not? Is it not his jersey?
He wasn't allowed to make money off of his likeness when he was at Georgia. And so it's kind of funny because South Park did like a whole episode about that.
Oh, really?
Where Cartman
of course they did.
Where Cartman was like a plantation owner.
Oh my God, I remember that. Yeah. Where they were trying to get basketball players or whatever. Yeah, I remember that.
And the NCAA, he's like, they're not slaves. And Cartman he said, now we both know.
Yeah. It's like they work and make you money and you don't pay them. Sounds like a slave to me. I like when they did the episode where they started up a company that does nothing.
Yeah.
Just so that they could sell the company. And they called it the Washington Redskins. And they had that big event, the Washington Redskins Go Fuck Yourself event.
Oh.
I was watching Metalocalypse because it was on HBO Max.
Oh, really?
And I was like, oh, dude, they like every season's on here, including the movie. And I was like, dude, I'm going to watch all this. And so I was kind of watching it in spurts or whatever. And then, earlier this week, I went to go watch it again, and I opened up the HBO Max app, and it was like, we switched over to a new app called Max. It's just called Max.
Yeah.
They took the HBO out. Then I was like, oh, that's annoying. I downloaded another app and signed into it or whatever. So I downloaded it and I signed into it, and I started looking for Metalocalypse, and it's not popping up.
You're like, fuck.
I was like halfway through season 4. So I was like halfway through the whole thing. And I was like, uh-oh. And so I Googled it. I was like, who's streaming Metalocalypse? And it was like Vudu, Amazon TV, like all these things that we don't have.
No.
And I was like, it seems like everything is still on this app except the one fucking show that I was trying to watch.
I wonder what the purpose is behind that. Like, why would they swap to another app?
Like why they rebranded?
Yeah, why would they? Well, not you could rebrand, but then just rename the app.
I've seen that done before.
Reconfigure the app. Hulu's done it a couple of times where they've like reconfigured the UI.
Yeah,
where it's like, what would be the purpose of making a brand new app?
Yeah,
and then taking like all of your back catalog.
Yeah,
and then sticking it on that app.
I don't know. That seems like, as far as like the end result, it seems like a long way to go to get there.
Right.
Right. It would be like if you say you wanted to paint your door blue, but so what you did was you built another house next to your house with a blue door, and then moved all your shit into that house.
Right. Hey, we're not using that other fucking house no more. Yeah. That piece of shit.
But you didn't bring like one of your couches that your guests like to sit on, just for whatever reason. Fuck you. That's why.
Speaking of streaming services, I guess Netflix finally stopped doing their password or their account sharing thing.
Oh, so they've been going back and forth about that for a while. Is that like a for real thing now?
Yeah, I think that they did. I had seen something the other day that was stating that they had done it. But I think we use mom and dad's Netflix account.
I think we're on Mary's mom's and have been for like 8 years.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Well, that's what I'd like. Mom and dad use our Disney Plus account, and then we use their Netflix account. And I think they also use our like Amazon TV account.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what the fuck is the point of paying all this money for just like 15 fucking streaming services?
Yeah. This is basically like having cable again.
Right.
I did see that Netflix was like, they have like, as far as like individual accounts go, there's I think a little over 1 million.
Really?
Like individual accounts. But the amount of users they have is like in the hundreds of millions. So I kind of understand when the way they're looking at this is like, okay, each account is like $15 a month.
Right.
So we're missing out on like almost $500 million a year,
right,
or a month almost. So if they're looking like if we can capitalize on that, we can make a shitload of money.
But if they have 10 million accounts, they're making $15 a month on each account.
Yeah,
that's like $150 million a month.
Right, that's what they're.
That's a lot of fucking.
That's still a lot of money.
That's a lot of fucking money.
But they're looking at it like we can get even more money.
Like your gross revenue for the year is over $1 billion. Yeah.
Is obnoxious.
Yeah. So I don't want to fucking hear it. Like, what? You want to take it from over $1.5 billion or how much it ever might be to like $10 billion a year?
Just start outpacing Disney.
Yeah. The fuck are you
revenue?
Doing? Yeah. And I feel like the content on Netflix is not up to par. Like,
it's not what it used to be,
like
for sure.
Like the content used to be really good, and then it's just gotten like progressively worse.
I think that there's two factors there. I think that what happened is a lot of these like syndicated, channels or whatever, like NBC and AMC and stuff like that. They wanted to do their own streaming service. Right. So Disney, of course, did the same thing. Where they started pulling all there. They said, we're going to have our own thing with our shows. And since we own those shows, we can do that. So Netflix, you aren't allowed to have these shows anymore.
Right.
And Netflix really can't, what can they really say?
No.
They probably license out the right to stream those shows. I bet that they do it on a month-by-month basis.
Probably.
Because some of that stuff just comes and goes so quick.
Right.
So
well, I remember Netflix used to have really good originals.
Yeah, when they first started doing originals, I mean, they were knocking it out of the park with everything that was.
Well, it's like what was the one that had Will Smith in it, where it was like he was like a cop or something, and like
Bright.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
So the thing about Bright is, so I personally really like Bright.
Right.
A lot of people really hate Bright, and a lot of critics critics in particular really hate Bright.
For what purpose?
Because objectively, it's not written very well, and that is true.
No,
if you look at it, if you look at it from that kind of a standpoint.
No,
but I went into this movie looking at it like, okay, this is a fantasy world,
right?
And like they are playing it serious. They did play it very serious, But I think that they played it serious enough that like the writing and the story in that movie is passable, at least enough to actually enjoy it.
Right.
Also, I feel that the biggest selling point to me for that whole movie is just the premise.
Right.
Because the premise itself is fucking sick. It's something that no one's ever done. It's so original, having like those high fantasy elements in
just drop them into like the real world,
the modern real world.
Right.
And they gave like this little bit of backstory where there was this big war and
the orcs are kind of like cholos.
Yeah, I mean everybody's kind of very blankly analogous for different things. Like the elves are supposed to be white people, and then like the orcs are supposed to be like black people and Mexican people.
Yeah.
But it was like, if they are filling those roles of like a privileged elite society, and then like a underrepresented, over-policed society.
Yeah.
You can't then still have racism between humans.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because then it was like, then that's just too much going. That's hatred pointed in too many directions. It's like, I think that like if that was really the case, like in our reality, humanity would very much be united against everyone else,
right?
Because they're all throughout history. That's kind of how we've been. It's always been an us versus them mentality. Right. So if it comes down to it, where it's like, oh, now there's a whole new species that we got to cohabitate with, all of a sudden, all our interpersonal problems are fixed,
are pointed.
Yeah, we're totally in harmony with one another because we don't have time to hate each other. We got to hate these fucking orcs.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like the same premise with like when we talked about with was it Section
District 9?
Yeah, District 9. Yeah, like that was sort of like the same premise there, where like they lived in like a ghetto.
Yeah,
as like the aliens, and everybody hated the aliens.
Right. Yeah. I actually watched that movie like last week or something. I think it's actually on Netflix. It just blows me away how good that movie looks, like how it stands up even today. Of course, it's not that old of a movie, but when I had talked about in one of the previous episodes at length about how they shot those scenes and everything. Yeah. But I mean, it just goes to it just further illustrates that point that if you have a good style that stands far and above everything else. They're actually they're working on District 10.
Is it like the same premise or?
So District 10, like in the movie, the whole movie starts. It kind of starts out where the MNU rolls into like the alien ghetto, and they're evicting all the aliens out of their like little shanty town, and they're going to move them into like this FEMA camp with like all these tents set up, and that where those tents are, that's called District 10.
Yeah.
So it's going to at the end of District 9, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it, two of the aliens manage to get back on the mothership and leave the planet. They get the ship fixed and they leave the planet. But the alien that left promised the main character, he said, I'll come back in 3 years to fix you.
Yeah.
Because the main character, he slowly was turning into one of the aliens because he had some fucking tube that sneezed in his face and turned him into an alien. Yeah. So there's still a lot of those aliens left on Earth.
Right.
The mothership is gone, but a lot of those aliens are still on Earth.
Almost all of them.
Yeah, so the problem isn't fixed.
Yeah.
Right. So the whole idea is going to be that they come back to get the rest of the aliens, but I think, after so many years of subjugation and mistreatment, they're probably going to want to come back and just kill everyone.
It's probably not going
to be good. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. I know they're like, I think they're in like the concept phase of that movie. So it's going to be a while before we ever see it. But I am excited for it.
What, that movie came out like what, over 10 years ago?
I want to say it came out probably like around 2011 or so.
No.
Because it was actually going to be the Halo movie.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And you can actually go on YouTube and you can see a lot of like promotional, maybe promotional is not the right word, but a lot of like trailer footage that they were putting together for it. Like there's this big It's like a 3 or 4 video thing where they show like all the snipers and warthogs being assembled in the factory, and they show.
Oh yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, they show that like the UNSC recruits going through like training and all that stuff. So the Halo movie, that would have been a good year for the Halo movie to come out. I think they would have capitalized on its popularity. But at the same time, I'm still happy that we have District 9.
Yeah.
I'm not like, oh, what could have been? District 9 is a good enough movie that I don't feel that we really missed out on anything too substantial.
Yeah, I thought that movie was pretty good. Yeah, it's interesting too that, like I said, like you said that the critics didn't really appreciate Bright that much, but I thought it was a pretty good movie. Yeah. Like comparatively though, like I've seen like some of like the critics' takes on like some of like the recent like releases and everything, and they'd say that they're good, but I think they're shit. They're just awful.
Yeah.
And it's like, but there's like this disconnect between like the critics and the audience and like audience reviews.
Yeah, look
like,
at any movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
Like there's something going on there.
Right. Yeah.
That like, how can this be that it can be that far off?
Yeah. It's like I know that review bombing is a thing, but I don't think it's for every single movie.
No.
You know what I mean?
That's a ridiculous concept that it would be every movie that's ever come out.
Usually it's like some actor who's in the movie said something really inflammatory, and so then the movie got review bombed. That's typically what happens. Yeah. It's not just, people, it's not just a mass army of trolls review bombing every single movie that the critics like and then praising every single movie that the critics dislike. But sometimes they're on the same page. Right. Like I've seen stuff that'll have like a critic score of like 2. No. And then like an audience score of like 1. It's just like we fucked up on both sides. It's like I feel like, I mean, and I can't say because I've never made a movie or a TV show, but I feel like, there's so many people involved and there's so much work that goes into this thing. There's so many eyes and hands on this thing. No. That if it was starting to turn into a giant turd, someone should notice. Yeah, right. Someone would notice. But maybe it's like we've invested so much into this, we've just got to put it out there anyway. Right. We have made a shit sandwich. We've all got to take a bite.
It's sort of like I know that like there was a big disconnect with like the Mario Brothers movie. And I mean, the critics were like, oh, it's like this isn't Citizen Kane. Like,
that was
a fucking Mario movie made for children. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember reading the critic reviews for that movie, and everybody was they all kind of had that like tone about it. It was very condescending. They were like, "Oh, this didn't live up to any kind of cinematic standard that we were expecting." And I was like, "What the fuck what were you expecting? Yeah. It's a me Mario. That's all it is." It's like, and you really can't blame Nintendo for wanting to be too brave with this thing anyway.
Yeah. It's like their target audience is 5-year-olds to 12-year-olds. Yeah. Like, those are the people they're going after.
Yeah, this movie is for people with no object permanence.
Right. The fuck do you want? Like, do you want Mario to, like, wax poetic on current issues?
Just like this still shot of Mario.
He's like smoking a cigarette.
Slow zoom camera. It's like, the mushroom of kingdom.
Some, like, noir.
It shows Peach like coming into his office, and he's like, "What do you want, Toots?" It's so funny that like I love to see people like rip on film noir, or like what's the word what's the word I'm thinking of? Not spoof. You know what I'm talking about? Like when you have a movie and they'll do like a film noir cutaway thing where like a dude's standing outside of like a theater, and he's got like his little trilby hat and overcoat, and it's raining, and he's like monologuing over himself. I remember seeing like a lot of movies do that, and so many of them did that, and I was like, okay, there's clearly like something that they're referencing, right? And it was like when I saw Casablanca, I was like, oh my God, this whole movie is that.
That was the style at the time.
Yes, it absolutely was. I mean, of course, in its own right, Casablanca is a great movie, but it's so fucking dramatic.
Yeah.
And it's so, like, you have to, if you haven't seen that movie yet and you go and watch it, you really have got to go into the mindset of, okay, I'm somebody from the 1930s going to see this movie for the first time.
Right.
Like, and I gotta.
Like, I just got out of my Model T Ford.
Yeah. It's like, I've got to expect that. I can't go into it after being somebody who's seen Interstellar.
Yeah. It's like I'm wearing overalls. I've been wearing overalls and a wool coat all week.
Oh, God.
Working in the textile factory.
A fucking patchwork jacket.
With that, like, slick back hair.
Yeah. The Dapper Dan hair.
Yeah, the Dapper Dan hair.
I've always wondered, like, what would happen, what would it be like if you plucked somebody out of, like, the 30s or 40s and had them watch, like, fucking watch something like Endgame. Like, what would they even make of it?
It'd just be like, the scene in the Raiders of the Lost Ark where, like, their faces just, like, melt.
Oh, my God.
It'll be interesting, too, like, 30, 40 years from now. Like, I'm sure that they'll, like, make reference to, like, the early 2000s movies.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's, like, Evanescence playing in the background.
Right, yeah.
And there's, like, the overhead shot, like, swirling overhead shot.
Yeah,
Of, like,
I hate that. Where it's very clearly, like, a set. Because, like, there's nothing outside of the walls. Breaking Bad did that. They did that in an episode of Breaking Bad.
They did.
Yeah, it's a
It's like somebody, like, yelling into the sky.
No, it was it's an episode where Jesse and that, you know, he at some point he gets hooked up with that goth girl.
Oh yeah.
And she gives him heroin for the first time. He's never had heroin before.
Yes.
And, like, he lays back on the bed, and then he starts levitating off the bed.
Mm.
And there's just so much practical effects in this shot that, like, really stand out in a TV show.
Yeah.
Like, you can very clearly tell they have him laying on, like, a plank of wood because, like, his arms are, like, back behind him like this, and they're just, like, craning him up in the air.
You, like, hear a winch.
Yeah. And then, like, he gets high enough that you can see, like, just the edges of the set of that room. And there's just darkness all around it because they only have lights in that little area. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's a stylistic thing to do, but, like, it really stands out in the show because there's nothing like that anywhere else in that whole show.
Right.
That's the only thing that's like that. And so when that scene comes up, I'm like, oh, here comes that dumb scene where it's really gonna take me out of it. I'm like, oh, they're in Studio 6 on Hollywood Boulevard.
I wonder if, like, they followed, like, the same sort of, like, directing type deal like The Boys did, because The Boys, like, they had a different director for, like, every one of those episodes. Like, I think they cycled through directors, but the director, you didn't have the same director for every episode.
I think Breaking Bad was Vince Gilligan. I think it's Vince Gilligan from front to back.
Oh, is it?
I'm pretty sure.
That's interesting that he would choose to do that sort of
out of nowhere,
very randomly.
Too.
Yeah,
and I know
he's like, I've been waiting for my moment. This is gonna put me on the map, baby.
Yeah. I know that, you know, he's the whole purpose of that was to show, you know, what it was like to be on heroin. I guess is to have, like, this out of body experience.
Yeah.
So that's what that shot. That's why it's composed that way.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just because, like, up until this point, we've seen characters like drink and do weed and cocaine.
Right.
And there was never any kind of a shot like that.
Right.
But for some reason, when we did the heroin shot, we had to show him, like, floating up through the ceiling. It's like it would have been fine if they just showed him laying on his back. Like, here's how I would have done that shot, me being not a TV producer or a director or anything. Here's how I would have done it. You show him doing the heroin, and he lays on his back, and you have the camera a still shot of his face, no movement.
No.
But you just have the actor looking off into, like, the middle distance, and then you could have the audio. I would play music, like, have a song going, which I'm pretty sure they did.
No.
Have, like, you know, a song for that scene. Not Pink Floyd, because it's way too on the nose.
No.
It had to be something else. You have a song, and, of course, the ambient audio of the room that he's in, and just have that very slowly muffle.
No.
the ambient audio and the music both, and
Until you get the tinnitus sound.
Yeah,
and,
have it going for like a really uncomfortably long time.
Yeah.
Like a minute and a half, I think,
Yeah.
would be long enough to get that point across.
Yeah.
Without having to do this him up in the air. I remember when the director yelled, "Cut!" Aaron Paul was like, "Get me the fuck down now."
Yeah, really, since Breaking Bad, the only other TV show that's really been like a cultural phenomenon has really been Game of Thrones, and we all kind of know how that ended. But since then, I don't really know of any. I've had like shows that I've watched that I enjoy,
Right.
But there hasn't really been anything else that's come along thus far.
Yeah.
That's sort of been like everybody watches
Right.
it.
There's very few that are kind of like a part of the cultural zeitgeist, right?
Right.
Like Breaking Bad, of course, Game of Thrones is one, and then, in a completely different vein, you have The Office. Everybody's watched The Office.
Right.
Yeah, there's very few that I can think of that, everybody has watched or is at least
Right.
aware of.
Like it used to be when we were growing up, like you had, like sitcoms were really big. They were very much like that. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people watched Friends. A lot of people watched Seinfeld. A lot of people watched, like Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah.
Like those were kind of like the TV shows that would, like a lot of people watched at one time.
Right. Well, also, I think, there was no streaming services back then.
That's true.
So, like, everybody's very segmented now as far as, like, the things that they watch because, if you want to, everybody can just go and look for the thing that they want to watch.
Right.
There's never really like, okay, what are the 10 shows that are available to everyone?
Right.
Of course, people will gravitate to the best one.
Right.
Now it's like, oh, have you ever watched, Blue Shoes on Hulu? And it's like, no, and I'm not going to. Yeah. It's like, oh, but it's such a good show. Like,
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
Really, the only thing I think that's keeping like live television afloat right now it's got to be sports. That's the only thing that people really use television like live TV for anymore.
News.
I don't like. Do people really watch the news that much on TV anymore?
I don't think that our demographic does, and I definitely don't think that people younger than us do.
Well, because I've just heard that like the ratings for like the ratings for like Fox, CNN, MSNBC, like the news stations.
Yeah.
Like when they have on like their talking heads like screaming at each other.
Yeah.
Like it's not. The ratings aren't good. They're not.
Well, it's not enjoyable.
Yeah, where it's like you have people that will do like a YouTube show, like they do politics on YouTube.
Yeah, that's very popular.
Yeah, where they're doing 1 million plus views on one video. That's just one video, and they might have multiple videos that come out in one day. They might have like 3 or 4 videos.
Yeah,
that's upwards of maybe 5 million views in one day, depending upon what they're doing. And then they're also doing live streams, which you might have 400,000 people in a live stream. Whereas like with like was it the Nielsen ratings or whatever it is?
Yeah, Nielsen.
Yeah. So like you have like CNN or Fox or MSNBC or something like that where they're only doing 200,000 at a time.
Yeah.
If that.
So I just keep looking at my waveform back there to make sure it's still recording me.
Because I mean, from what I understand, up until recently, really the only particular draw that any of the news stations had was it Tucker Carlson with Fox? I think he was a big draw.
Yeah.
And he got fired, so...
Yeah. That was part of the Dominion suit with that Fox had. They settled with Dominion. For anybody that doesn't know, Dominion was the company that did the electronic ballots for the previous presidential election, and Fox News was running all this stuff about. Well, really, it was Tucker Carlson more than anybody was talking about how they were working with the Biden admin to steal the election and all that stuff. But I think they settled out of court, and part of the settlement was that they had to get rid of Tucker Carlson.
Really?
But he moved to he's going to continue doing his show, but he's going to do it on Twitter.
Really?
He's going to be one of the first Twitter-only shows. And I of course, I don't really watch Tucker Carlson. I've seen clips of him like spieling on about what have you.
Yeah.
But I watched.
He seems pretty popular. I mean, from
he's
understand a lot of people
very
watch
popular
him.
with like the right.
Yeah.
And I watched a video of his on Twitter, and it was very different to hear him. The way he was speaking, the things he was speaking about was a lot different than what I've seen of him on
like
on
when
a
he was
TV
on,
show
yeah.
where you have people lording over him.
Beholden to
Right.
the station, right?
Probably,
Or
writing
the parent
scripts
company.
and
Right.
make sure you mention this and
Right.
blah, blah, blah. And so I think that, I really think that Elon Musk, what he's wanting to do with Twitter is he's wanting to grow Twitter and kind of into this kind of all-in-one social media site.
Right.
Where he's wanting to incorporate elements like YouTube into it, where people can host their shows.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really don't know how that's going to work, because if you go to somebody's Twitter and you want to go find a video that they posted,
Oh God.
you gotta scroll forever away. So he's gonna have to introduce some kind of media player,
Right.
playlist search function. I don't know. I think that's the direction he's going, just from what I've seen.
Yeah, because I mean, I know that from what you said that Tucker has moved over there, and I know that I think there's been other people that have left YouTube. I know somehow or another Russell Brand has become an investigative journalist.
Russell Brand?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. It's
good for him, I guess.
It's wild. And I think he moved to a YouTube competitor.
Rumble?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
a lot of them have gone to Rumble.
I downloaded the app to it's an okay app, but comparatively to YouTube and some of the features that they have, it's very difficult to get around in the app, as opposed to like on YouTube, it has the recommended, and then it'll play the if you scroll down, or if you go to look for another video and you back out of the video, it still has the player at the bottom of the screen. Rumble doesn't do that. The only nice thing about Rumble is that if you turn the screen off,
it continues to play. Well, that used to be a feature of YouTube.
Well, now they want you to pay for YouTube Premium.
Well, I do pay for YouTube Premium. It's worth it not to have to see ads.
I'll lie about the ads.
That was a feature that YouTube had way back, when the YouTube icon on your phone was a little
TV. Yeah,
mm-hmm. It was way back. But I think that what happens is, especially when you have people that try to compete against these kind of established social media platforms, is so much of your social media platform is the UI itself and how you navigate it. Not so much the content or how well it works. It's just the very face value of what you're looking at.
Right.
So if it's if you find it to be kind of cumbersome to navigate, that's a huge turnoff.
Right.
Even if the the content is really good.
Yeah.
I would hazard a guess that there are a lot of UI elements that get copyrighted.
That's probably true.
Such as having the minimized player while you're searching for another video, or having some videos autoplay as you scroll past them, which they can totally do that. Think, okay, so especially nowadays, we'll go back to video games for just a second. Whenever you're playing a video game and there's a loading screen, what do you normally see? Tips. Right. And it's usually some stupid shit don't forget, if you run out of health, you die. Yeah. And it was well, why does everybody do this? Well, because between loading screens, you can't just have a black screen with a loading bar that's boring to look at. Somebody's going to get bored. You got to have a flashy graphic or something to read. Well, Namco, I believe it's either Namco or Capcom. It's one of the two. I can't remember. They had on one of their games, maybe it was a Street Fighter game or something. It was way back. During the loading screen, you could play Pac-Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then in another game they had during the loading screen, you could control a little character and make him beat up a guy or whatever.
Yeah.
So there was something to do during the loading screen.
Right.
Well, they copyrighted that. No one else can have interactive load screens.
Really?
Just them.
Huh.
So if Namco or Capcom, whoever happens to be that has copyrighted that, if they can do that, I would imagine that YouTube.
I wonder what the statute of limitations is on that. Like, how long does that copyright last for until it becomes public domain?
No, I don't know.
Because I know, like,
they're gonna do like Disney and just extend it somehow.
Yeah, until you run out on Winnie the Pooh. And
yeah, and they make a horrible slasher film out of it.
Like, this all could have been avoided, Disney.
Yeah.
You pushed us to this.
You pushed too far, Disney. You've gone too far.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I had never really considered that, but yeah, I mean, that does make a lot of sense. That I'm sure that a lot of the UI functionality probably is copyrighted, because I'm sure that they claim that that is what gives them an advantage, right?
Yeah.
So and that really does suck too, because especially with larger institutions like that, it's like you have a larger number of people that are probably working on new features, right? As opposed to like if you're just some startup that's trying to design an application, like maybe a video player or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what's available to me that I can still implement? And do I have any ideas that are different that aren't already copyrighted that they're not implementing?
And different's not always better.
Right.
Sometimes different is just different.
Exactly.
It's like, imagine if one day Windows decided they wanted to copyright the ability to change the volume on your computer at the taskbar.
Right.
Where you click on the little sound icon, you drag it up and down. And then everyone else had to do something totally different.
Right.
Like, you had to go into the settings every time. Like, you would never change it. You wouldn't even bother with it.
No.
You're like, fuck it. That's just too much trouble. I'm just going to buy a Windows machine. I would almost bet that there's a lot of that going on.
It is interesting, though, because, I mean, if that is true and Twitter is trying to go towards, being like an all-in-one media platform, especially with like social media aspects, I mean, Twitter already does a pretty good job with like retweets and posts and all that kind of stuff. I don't really use Twitter, so
it's good for visibility for sure.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I would imagine as far as like marketing's concerned and like ad space, like it's probably like I would imagine that like scrolling by an ad or whatever doesn't work the same as say like an ad that you might have in a video. Like, so like you have like YouTube videos where like they'll play the ad prior to, and you'll see an ad for like a coffee brand or like a beer or something like that.
Right.
As opposed to like scrolling by and seeing like a click here like link to whatever the ad might be. Like I'm sure that's not as effective as like seeing the ad on the video.
Right.
So I'm sure that maybe that's also pushing him like to try to get the ad revenue up for Twitter.
The interesting thing too is like, use YouTube for an example again. So if you click on a video on YouTube, it goes to a whole new window.
Right.
And a whole new window with a whole new address. But on Twitter, when you scroll past a video and you click on the video, it's already on the page that you're on. It just expands.
Right.
So it's already there. So, it would be a really big pain in the ass if you're scrolling past a video on Twitter and you clicked on it and then it had to go to a whole new page and load that. And
reload the page. And
you go back and, Twitter is only up and down.
Right.
So if you lose your spot where you were scrolling,
you're fucked.
And it just takes you right back to the top. You're probably going to get off Twitter.
Yeah, it's gone forever.
Yeah. Whereas YouTube, in the app at least, if you're scrolling through and you click on a video and you go to that video's page or whatever, you watch it. When you back out and you go back to the previous page, it takes you exactly to where you were in your feed.
Right.
And you
I do like that about the feed in YouTube.
Yeah.
That is very nice because you essentially have to hit the home button again in order to refresh the feed.
Yeah. I mean, Facebook doesn't even do that. If you click on a post on Facebook and you go to that post, when you go back to your feed, it usually takes you to the top.
Yeah. I don't know who implemented that. You're a fucking moron.
I wonder if somebody could make a social media platform with just the worst UI like ever. Like you had to scroll from like left to right. Like all the new stuff was on the right. Like you had to scroll all the way to the right to see it.
Ugh, that sounds awful.
You can only type one letter at a time. Like every time you click a letter, the keyboard goes away. You have to click back in the text box, bring the keyboard back up.
Yeah, from what I understand is, especially like once I guess Elon had bought Twitter, is that a lot of people had decided to go to, people that are of left-leaning ideology had decided to go to what's that other one, Mastodon or whatever it is. I think that was a competitor, right?
Yeah, there was another one for the right as well. Donald Trump was a big thing.
Oh, was it Truth Social or whatever?
Yeah, Truth Social, that's it.
Yeah, he truths or whatever.
My truth, personally.
What a fucking narcissist.
I know. Donald fucking Trump. This is so fucking funny. He is the least presidential president that there's ever been. It's hilarious.
It just kind of like amazes me that like it's like a fucking clown show.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like we're not even like trying to act like the presidency is like some type of like regal position
Anything
anymore.
to aspire to.
No.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking clown show.
Just a bunch
now.
of fucking clowns. I tell you what, it's been hard on Biden. He is struggling. Every time they wheel him out in front of the cameras, it's just, my God, man. Let him lay down.
Well, he's like fucking 82 years old.
I tell you, he can't make it through another term.
Apparently, he's running again.
He can't make it. I'm telling you, he can't make it because. Do you remember what? Let's take Obama for example. You remember how young and vibrant and creamy Obama was when he was elected, and then 8 years later when he got out, he was like 92.
Right. The only thing I can think is that they don't get a whole lot of sleep.
I would imagine that they don't.
And from what I've heard, they're like, oh yeah, Biden doesn't wake up till like after 9 o'clock in the morning.
So there's like a solid 4 hours of running the country every day. It's being done by someone else.
The only thing I can think is just like he's not really like, he's like kind of like wandering around in the White House all day long.
Yeah.
And everybody's like trying to herd him into the rooms.
They gotta go find him.
Yeah. And they're like, hey,
Mr. President.
look at me.
He's like,
Yeah.
what?
They're like, read this. And they like give him the piece of paper and he goes, oh, okay. And he like goes up there and then he reads this thing and then he like wanders off and they're like, get the press secretary up here and fix this shit.
Yeah.
And then she comes up there and does her thing.
I've never heard the current press secretary. I've never seen anybody talk in circles the way that woman does.
Oh, yeah.
It is unbelievable. She's a master at her craft. She has mastered that political speak.
Yeah. But saying a lot, but actually saying nothing at all.
Saying nothing at all.
Because it's like the only thing I can think is like there's like a board of people right now that are like running the country. Not very well.
No.
But
I tell you who's really...
Because it's like you've got him doing that and then you've got Chuckles over there.
You talking about Kamala Harris? She's a terrible speaker.
She's horrific.
Awful. What was that one video of her? She started screaming about coconuts or something. You know what I'm talking about? No. She was giving a speech somewhere, and she was like, I don't know what was going on with her. She was like laughing, and
of course she
like
was
in between like every word, and then she said something about coconuts falling off a tree, and then she was like very wildly gesturing. It was just a spectacle.
Well, it's like, and then, but prior to that, of course, you had fucking Trump, who
God, you just never knew what was going to come out of his
extremely
fucking mouth.
Inflammatory, like, and just is constantly saying crazy shit. And his vice president is fucking Cotton Hill.
Yeah.
From King of the
You're a fatty man. One of my favorite things with Cotton Hill is when Hank introduces him to his neighbor Khan, and he was like, "Dad, this is Mr. Khan. He's Korean." And Cotton Hill walks over to him and goes, "No, you ain't. You Laotian, ain't you, Mr. Khan?" It was like really like sinister the way he said it. It's like, how do you know just by looking at me? We used to stack you 5 bodies high, use you like sandbags.
Somebody told me, I guess they're bringing that show back.
Oh, they don't need to do that.
Yeah.
They don't need to do that.
I think they just need to leave it be.
Yeah. Because you're going to tarnish the legacy of our great show.
Right.
Just leave it alone.
I mean, I don't know. The new Beavis and Butthead were pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's pretty good. But I think that, Beavis and Butthead doesn't have a legacy like King of the Hill does.
Right. Well, it's a different type of show.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah, Beavis and Butthead, I think, kind of works with every generation. Because it's just stupidity.
Yeah.
King of the Hill was more it's more nuanced to that show, as opposed to Beavis and Butthead. Beavis and Butthead doesn't require you to do a whole lot of mental lifting on your part.
All you gotta do is laugh.
Right.
It's just slapstick.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Beavis and Butthead's episodes is when they're eating those chicken nuggets, and Beavis starts choking on one, and he was trying to pantomime to Butthead and tell him what was wrong. And he's like, and Butthead's like, you're choking your chicken? Such a good show. God. Well, before we run out of too much time, I guess we need to jump into our Super Cringe Thursday post. Wesley, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, so there's a particular Reddit page that I love to go to. It's called Cringetopia RM. The old Cringetopia, something
happened to it.
Some feedback on this page. I'm going to take you down the rabbit hole on this.
Yeah.
The original Cringetopia page, or the Cringetopia page that we used to use to get some of the material for Super Cringe Thursday, I guess they changed the mods on it.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't use Reddit, I use it a little bit, so I sort of understand how this works. It's you have moderators that will actively administer, do admin work on the page, enforce rules and everything.
Yeah.
And I think mods can sort of be assigned by different people.
Yeah.
So somehow or another, this page turned into a furries page.
It sure did.
And I don't know how it happened. It was just all of a sudden it was just like that.
It was just furry content.
And then it was this massive war.
Yeah.
And it was wild to watch it.
It was a shit fest.
It was wild to watch it play out in real time.
Yeah.
For a week and a half.
Yeah, it didn't last long.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden they just banned everybody.
Yeah. It was, you're talking about a sub that had something over 1 million people subscribed to it. And out of nowhere, it just became Furrytopia.
Yeah.
And no one was on board with that.
No.
No one liked that.
Not with this group of Redditors.
No, not with this particular group. I love finding those little really seedy subreddits where they're kind of like hiding away from like the liberal side of things.
Yeah.
Because Reddit is a very liberal, very liberal place. So there's a lot of like there's a lot of very dry, like, you know, no fun allowed here kind of content. But every now and then you'll find a sub where it's just people being jackasses. Those are always the best ones.
But so that's sort of the backstory on Cringetopia RM, which I'm pretty certain stands for remastered. And so this particular one I found after that happened with the original Cringetopia. So this particular video this week, I don't know who either of these two people are.
Yeah.
I think one of the guys looks like he might do like an interview podcast type deal on YouTube.
Yeah, from his kitchen.
Yeah, from his kitchen or whatever. And I can't remember what this other guy's name is.
Was it Zach something?
Zach Kosher or something like that.
Something like that.
Something like that. It shows it in the video if you go watch it. And the guy goes... Immediately, the guy goes, this is so-and-so. He was in Pete the Dragon. It looks like you have another show on CBS. I don't know.
He was like, you got another show coming up. It's called something.
And immediately, he's like shuffling through his like cue cards or whatever while the guy's talking. And he goes, hi, yeah, that's crazy. And the guy's like, I think there might be lag.
He's like, can you hear me? And the guy was like, that's so you. He's just the most uninterested, like, interviewer you've ever seen. I think that I feel that the interviewer is doing a bit.
You think it's like a between two ferns type deal?
But I don't think that like the interviewee is in on it.
Like the first time I watched it through, I got like 15 seconds in, and I had to pause. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, it's hard to watch. The guy he's interviewing is so flabbergasted just by the awfulness of the interview. You can see his mind like working through like, what is happening right now? Like, this is so terrible.
And he like keeps asking me, he's like, I think there might be a lag, and the guy's like, yeah, that's crazy. He's like not looking at the camera.
Yeah.
He's like fucking around with these index cards.
He's got like 5 index cards. And he's just shuffling through all of them over and over.
Yeah, like, and then like after I watched it the first time through, like now that you say that, like I think I was like, oh yeah, he's fucking with that guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, now that I know that he's like fucking with him, like now it's really funny.
Yeah. It's a really funny premise too. Like anytime you see those like over the internet interviews, there's usually like some kind of a lag in between.
Yeah.
Like you see it on the news all the time, where they're like, here's so and so to tell us a little bit about the riots or whatever.
And they're just like standing there,
and it's just somebody standing there with a mic, just staring into the camera. They're like, yeah, so as you can see behind me.
My favorite is like where like they never get the audio to go through, and they're just standing there for an awkwardly long amount of time. It could be like 30 seconds, or the person's just like standing there like looking around.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Well, we'll come back to them."
Yeah. Like, y'all haven't figured this out by now?
But yeah, if you get a chance, go watch this week's Super Cringe Thirsty, because it's actually really funny.
Yeah.
Like some of ours, like they're not really funny.
They're just cringy.
They're just cringy. But this one kind of toes the line between comedic value and cringe at the same time.
Some of the best cringe content is bad interviews.
Oh yeah.
Like, did you ever see the one with it's Chris Hemsworth, Brie Larson, and Don Cheadle?
No.
And they're I guess it's an interview for Infinity War. I think that's what it is. And the interviewer, he keeps asking Brie Larson, of course, is who plays Captain Marvel. He keeps asking her these questions, and she's just very abrasive and very egotistical.
Brie Larson, really?
Yeah. And
that was sarcasm for those that didn't pick up on that.
Chris Hemsworth is sitting next to her, and you can just see it on his face. He's like, I hate this bitch. Like, the interview at one point goes, he says something about her doing her own stunts. And Brie Larson was like, yeah, she was like, yeah, I do my own stunts. She's like, I just kind of assumed that's what everybody did. And Don Cheadle and Chris Hemsworth kind of make a little joke about doing their own stunts, and Chris Hemsworth says, "Well, we got the next Tom Cruise over here," and in regards to Brie Larson, and Brie Larson goes, "No, I'm going to be the first. Me, thank you very much."
Ugh.
And you're just like, "Oh my god, just fucking ugh.
Just
unnecessarily, just mean. You're just mean.
Yeah.
You're a mean lady.
It's like you don't like.
These are your coworkers. You got to work with these people,
right? It's like. I think I don't want to generalize, but I think a lot of women don't get that.
Yeah.
It's like, cause if he would have said that to a guy too.
Yeah. Oh,
like you're being a real prick.
Everybody would have laughed about it.
And I'm about to make fun of you.
Yeah.
And you need to take it and understand to shut the fuck up.
There's subtext here.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. You're being a real prick.
Yeah. What if he just turned 90 degrees? You're being a bitch. It's to the side of her head. Don Cheadle's like, yeah. There's a
Yeah, she's had a bunch of interviews where she's just like a real, as the British would say, a right cunt.
Yeah. Nasty. Nasty.
Like, there's been a couple where I've seen her. She's like, "Is that some sort of personal attack?"
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
why are you so defensive? You are projecting a lot.
Yeah. Ugh. Why are you so mad?
Why are you so mad?
Yeah.
You multimillionaire. Why don't you calm down?
Shut up.
There is a talk show that Jamie Foxx was hosting, and I don't know. I know that some shows, like late night shows, will have guest hosts on. Mm-hmm. Like Conan O'Brien might have a guest host if he's like sick or something, or he's
got something else
prior engaged. Yeah. And so I don't know which show this was, but Jamie Foxx was hosting, and he had Brie Larson come on to do an interview. And in this particular interview, the reason I bring it up is not because of her behavior; it's because of her physical appearance. The interview is very amicable between the two of them, and it's a good interview. They're nice to each other. She's actually pleasant, but Jamie Foxx is like, please welcome Brie Larson or whatever, and she walks out, and her dress that she's wearing, it's a combination of her tits being shoved up like 9 inches,
right,
and then like her dress is just like. I mean, you can see this much of the boobs, right? Like everything but the nipple.
Yeah.
Like
so they just got as close to the nipple as possible.
Within like a millimeter.
Right.
It's like if she reached too far this way, there's areola.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have to blur this out.
Yeah. I mean, like, it was a lot of cleavage. It was a lot of boob.
Yeah.
And
mostly boob.
Mostly boob. And Jamie Foxx. This interview is hilarious to watch because Jamie Foxx, his fucking career is on the line. He's sitting there, like, just staring at her, like... He's trying so hard to just look at her face.
It's like about to have an aneurysm.
Like he's about to just be like, I can't take it anymore. Mama. He just dives into her.
Oh, God.
It's really funny. I mean, he pulls it off, though. He doesn't... He's
like as intense as possible, just like looking at her.
He doesn't fail. Weaker men would have, for sure.
He just like goes to the back and like collapses on the ground.
Somebody comes over and is like, you did good, son. You done good. I'm not the kind of person to shame a woman for her clothes or anything, but me personally, I would have chose a different outfit.
Yeah.
And maybe she has people who,
picked that out
for her, but I feel like I would have been like, I'm going on TV in front of, this isn't a cabaret.
No.
This is, the Conan O'Brien show.
Right.
Like I don't need my ma'am hams hanging out for everybody to see.
Like some woman of the night.
Yeah. And it was a very because if you ever see her anywhere else, she's very modestly dressed.
Yeah, I wonder what the point of that was.
Like in that interview with Chris Hemsworth and John Cheadle, she's wearing like a blazer and a button-up shirt.
Yeah.
Like, she...
Yeah, this is out of character.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem like... I don't know. Of course, I don't fucking know her personally. But it just doesn't seem like something she would have picked.
Yeah, comparatively to the other interviews that she's done.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. If I was a young, attractive woman with large breasts...
No, I mean, I would feel like, I got it. I'm going to flaunt it.
Yeah.
And, Brie Larson really doesn't have really huge boobs. But something was going on with that dress. There's a lot going on there.
It'd be sort of like... I guess the only thing you could maybe compare it to with like a guy is like if he has like a huge schlong.
Oh yeah, just like a big fat fucking cock.
Yeah, just wear like the tightest pants
just
possible.
Fucking donkey dick down to his knees, and he comes out there with like gray sweatpants that are like 2 sizes too small. He just sat facing the interviewer like this.
The interviewer's just like sitting there, and his like wiener's like this close to his face.
Or if it was like a girl interviewer, she's like holding her hand out like this.
She's like not looking.
Just not looking at it. You point that thing away from me, please. Go put somebody's eye out. Oh, two things real quick. Did you see, while we're on the topic of interviews, did you see Donald Trump's town hall with CNN?
No, I've seen like bits and pieces of it.
So you saw like a clips or whatever?
Right, yeah.
So that was a fiasco for CNN.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a news channel have to backpedal the way that they did after that thing, because he came out there and he fucking ramrodded them.
Yeah.
It was impressive. My favorite part of that whole interview was when the moderator started grilling him about January 6th and his tweets and everything.
Right.
And
then he pulled out that
that piece of paper with all the receipts on it. It was just it's just fucking just showbiz. Is all it is for him. But my favorite thing, I don't even remember what they were talking about, because he just said, when he said it, I was all I could focus on because it was so funny. She asked him something or said something, and he said some crap, and then he just goes, vagina. It's just the way he says it, vagina. It's just so, I don't know. It's weird to hear a former president say the word vagina. That's
the only thing I can think is that this dude, like, his comedic timing.
It's so good. It's so good.
He should be nowhere near the Oval Office.
Oh, no. He shouldn't.
But his comedic timing is so fucking
yeah. I dated this girl and she had the biggest vagina. One of my favorite, I love all the clips of him out of context, people use for sound bites. I love the one where he's standing at the podium and he's looking down at this piece of paper. He just goes, "Shut up, silly woman."
Have you ever seen? There's a guy on YouTube that he does. He did. Was it that song "Blinding Lights" by The Weeknd or whatever it is? And it's essentially what he did is he auto-tuned Trump singing it.
Oh, really?
With all the different. He got all those audio clips from the videos and everything,
spliced it all together,
and he got him to sing the whole fucking thing.
Wow,
it's pretty insane. It's actually pretty good. I'll share the video on the Facebook page so you can see it, because this guy he did that and he did a couple other ones. He's very talented as far as it comes to splicing that kind of stuff together.
It wasn't DJ Cumberbund, was it? DJ Cumberbund is the guy that does all the mashups, Pants Feet.
I don't think so.
You ever seen Pants Feet? Oh, dude, Pants Feet is so good. It's a mix-up of Take Me Higher and Photograph by oh, why am I blanking on this? Nickelback, yeah. And it's just I love pants and I love feet. Feet pants. And he goes, "Can you take me higher to a place with golden feet?" I want to say DJ Cumberbund is also the guy that did the mashup between Rammstein and Lady Gaga.
Oh, really?
It was Telephone and maybe it was Du Hast by Rammstein. A lot of his stuff is it's comedy, funny. Yeah. He'll do funny videos, but some of his mashups are him actually trying to make a good mashup.
Right.
And for a while there, I was unironically listening to mashup songs on YouTube, because a lot of them are actually really, really good.
Is he the one that did the Slipknot and Justin Bieber?
No. That was the first one that I ever saw. Yeah. And that one is fucking hilarious how good it is. Just the fact that it goes together so well is so fucking funny.
Which is actually pretty interesting that pop and metal mash so well together.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole subgenre, they do pop goes punk or whatever it is. There's whole CDs of that stuff where you have people Pierce the Veil and August Burns Red, all the metalcore bands will go and do pop songs.
Right.
And it's actually not bad.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah. It's cutting your coffee with a little bit of cream.
Right.
It's I don't like the way pop tastes on its own, but if you put a little metal in there, it's palatable. Yeah, the Justin Bieber one was Slipknot, so funny. I like Corey Taylor. I remember seeing an interview with him where somebody asked him about it, And Corey Taylor was like, I fucking love it. He was like, the first time I saw it, he was like, it blew me away. He was like, this is what it should have been. Another really good one is it's Adele singing Skyfall.
I've never seen that.
Mixed with Eminem.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was
so it's like her singing over like one of his tracks or whatever?
It's just two of those two songs kind of mushed together.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like I came across all that stuff like in like the early days of YouTube. Not necessarily the early days. That stuff was a little bit longer, a little bit further on. But I mean, it used to be. Remember when you would take two YouTube videos and play them in separate windows at the same time? Like way back. Like I used to do that and make my own mashups just by playing two videos at the same time. There's one that's I want to say it's Oasis and Green Day. It's Wonderwall and Boulevard of Broken Dreams mashed up. And those two songs are kind of, they're both very melancholy, kind of in the same vein or whatever.
Yeah. But
when you put them together, it's just, it's fucking...
Yeah, I kind of miss the old days. Not necessarily... Yeah, I guess you could say it's the old days of YouTube now. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago. But, I mean, now it seems like a lot of it is... comparatively, YouTube now is a lot of, like... informative videos or like vlogs. Like
a lot of episodic content.
Yeah, right. Yeah. As opposed to like
people just posting shit.
Yeah, just posting shit to be posting it.
One of my favorite videos of me and Aaron, which by the way, Aaron was supposed to be here this morning, everybody. We were supposed to have a guest.
Yeah.
But he overslept. So maybe we'll have him on the next show. But me and Aaron, we discovered this channel called Noah's Food Reviews. And it's like this. He's a really fat, y'all. He's fat. He's this big, fat 10-year-old. He's a kid, and he's just so fat. And he's sitting there, and he's doing food reviews into this camera, but he's reviewing shit like that his mom bought at the grocery store, like Tyson's Anti-Tizers and like Pringles,
Bagel Bites.
Yeah. He did one episode where he reviewed like Gatorade powder. But my favorite one is his Miracle Whip video. Because the kid has like a lisp and a speech impediment.
Yeah.
He's like, hello everybody, and welcome to Noah's Food Reviews. And today we're going to be reviewing Miracle Whip. He keeps saying Miracle Whip. But he opens up the thing of Miracle Whip, and he's like showing the camera. He's like, as you can see, I've already been enjoying it. And he takes a spoon and scoops up. He scoops up. And he just takes a big bite of it. And like, he's just got like this greasy, matted hair. And like these giant moobs. He looks like bitch tits from Fight Club. And he's got like this camouflage pattern like dresser behind him.
Yeah.
Like it's obviously some kind of hand-me-down with like all these Monster Energy cans on the top of it.
Oh no.
And it's just like, man, that room has got to smell awful. Ugh. Like I just know that it does. Ugh. But I think he ended up deleting his channel.
Probably for the best.
I think that maybe some trolls got a hold of it and were being mean to him.
Son, turn the comments off.
Yeah. And but a lot of his stuff is re-uploaded.
Yeah.
So you can find some clips and you can find a lot of like really heavily edited videos of it. But yeah, I think the Miracle one, somebody has posted the Miracle Whip one in its perpetuity, the entire thing.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny to fucking watch it because he's so genuine about the review.
Yeah.
Like he goes into like the texture and the tang and like like all this other stuff. And like part of me I hope that he continues to do food reviews. Because he obviously has a passion for it.
Right.
He clearly does. So I hope that he continues and he follows that passion.
Yeah, it's sort of he sort of does like the same thing, just in the same vein. The kid that wears he's not a kid anymore, but the kid that like wears the suit.
Oh, Review Bra.
Yeah, Review Bra.
Review of the week.
Yeah, Review of the week.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have like a shortwave radio program that he does?
Really?
I think
that
so.
seems super in character for him. It
I
really
think
does.
that he does.
Wow. Yeah, I love that guy. He's so quotable. My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined. That guy's so funny. I like how in the description of all his videos, he gives a description of the suit that he's wearing. He's like, I'm wearing a 3-piece suit by such and such with a such and such tie. And it's just... See, it was shit like that, right? There was just, that's all it is. Like, what you see is what you get.
Right.
Like, there's no further, anything else involved here.
Right.
It's just a guy eating fast food and taking it seriously.
Right. It used to be that, like, shit like that could exist on YouTube, and, like, that would be, like, on the trending page.
Yeah.
Like, it was just random shit that would be on the trending page. Now it's just, like, CNN clips or like
Joe Biden
it's like
videos.
The newest Rihanna music video or some bullshit.
Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, who gives a flying fuck? It's like it used to be like independent creators, like just these random creators.
Yeah.
With like that's how they got their start. Was like they would have one video that would go viral, and it's just this treasure trove of videos post that upload.
Yeah.
And then they'd pop off. And then to have millions of subscribers after that.
Yeah.
And then they'd create a following. It's like, and then essentially, like, they've made it. Like, all it took was just one, it took one time for them to get on the trending page. And that was it.
And it's very rare to see a lot of those same groups or individuals existing today in YouTube's current sphere. I think really the only one that has managed, or maybe not the only one, but the only one I can really think of is Rhett and Link.
No.
But the first video I ever saw of theirs wasn't even on YouTube. It was, I used to have this app on my phone called Stumble Upon, and you would click this button, and it would take you to a random web page, which in hindsight seems dangerous, but I used to come across Cracked articles.
No.
And Cracked used to be worth reading.
Yeah, we used to read Cracked articles
and
all the
now
time.
It's insanely liberal.
No.
It's not even funny anymore. Like there's no more humor element to it.
Right.
But I went to a Cracked web page, and they had embedded that Red Link video, and it's this particular one where him and the two guys are standing there, and they're both wearing T-shirts, and they're like. Like one guy has like a T-shirt with like an egg on it, and he flicks it, and like the egg goes to the other guy's T-shirt. It's all stop motion,
Yeah.
So they've got like 500, 600 different T-shirts that they're changing in and out of to like make this kind of a thing going. It was just something creative and interesting to watch, and they gained a big following, and now all they do is like this show where they sit down at a table. And they're like, oh, what would it be like if, there was ice cold Cheetos instead of flaming hot Cheetos? And it's just kind of like, this isn't what, this is just episodic content that, you're going to run out of ideas eventually here.
Right.
Here we go with fucking episode 71 of our podcast.
It is like, every once in a while I'll still find like something like, honestly, Facebook is usually pretty good for that. Like, I'll find, there's a particular group of guys from like New Zealand. It's stupid, but I watch it. Is where they have like this. They'll drop like a fucking wrecking ball or some shit.
Yeah, like down to a trampoline or something.
Yeah, they're like 40 stories up. I'm like, oh, let's see what fucking happens here.
Will it crush the car?
Yeah.
It did.
And I'm glad that I watched it.
Yeah.
And, by the time it's over with, it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I've watched 30 fucking episodes of them just dropping heavy shit on shit.
Right. Yeah, like, stuff like that was, I used to like to watch Hydraulic Press Channel.
Yeah.
Where it was just like this Finnish guy, and him and his wife would stick things in a hydraulic press and crush it. It was fun to watch.
I watched one not too long ago. I don't know if I brought it up before, but this guy had like a ballistic dummy hand or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was showing what happens. Like they have the high pressure water cutter.
Like they used to cut metal with?
They used to cut metal with.
Yeah.
And he was like, here's what happens if you try to run your hand like through one of these things.
Yeah.
And he did it a couple times, and like it like would slice the fingers open and everything.
Yeah.
And then he did it one time, and it got caught
Oh, shit.
So he's like, it got caught between the two bones in the hand like that and pressed it down to the table. And in order for him to get it out, he had to pull it out this way. Ooh. So it's like, had that been your hand,
it would have cut through your fingers.
He's like, it would have pinned your hand to the table, drilling a hole through your hand. And the only way to get it out would have been to cut the rest of that.
Oh, God.
It was like some fucking Saw shit.
Oh. Man, stuff like that, like those heavy machinery injuries are just so fucking bad because stuff like that doesn't even know that you're there.
No.
There's so many videos, like, especially, they always seem to happen in China.
China.
Where people get, like, sucked up into a lathe.
Ugh.
And just get rotated. And just turned into a fucking pretzel. And the machine never stops.
Nope.
It just keeps on going.
Ugh. Well, I remember when I worked in the machine shop with Dad, I remember there was the mill that I used to work on. I think you probably know which one, the smaller one. Like,
where they bypassed the safety?
The door open.
Yeah.
So I could just in there with the door open. And this thing, like, it was so old. And, like, it wouldn't slow down as it came closer to the bit to grab the bit.
No.
Because essentially what happens is, like, you have the arm that holds all these bits, and you would take the bits out and then change the bits that you wanted to use. So it might be...
Bits are just like different cutting material.
Right. So it might be tools. Just like a
an
drill
end mill
bit.
Or a drill bit or...
Yeah. So, like, the arm that would grab it, it would come out and go, wham!
It would swing. It had like a pivot, and it would swing this arm that had like a hook, and it would swing really fast, and it would grab the bit, and it would swing back around, and it would put the bit in the machine head.
Yeah,
and it was lightning fast.
Yeah. Like there was no like slowing it down to gently grab the bit to make sure you didn't break anything.
No.
It would go wham, wham, wham. It's just like drill the fuck out of this thing.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the door's open. You're standing 2 feet away from it.
And it's spraying fucking oil coolant all over you.
Oh, that coolant was so fucking nasty. Ugh.
I remember the worst part about that job. I actually didn't mind that job, but the worst part about it is like you'd go to grab something out of the mill, and like the first couple times, like I would go to grab something, I would just grab the freshly
cut metal,
and then just cut the shit out of yourself.
Yeah, you like razor sharp burrs all over it.
I remember walking around in there, and like you would, of course, there's metal shavings everywhere.
Yeah,
and like if you're not wearing like boots, like with like a thick sole on them, like you wear tennis shoes, eventually like during the day you're like, the fuck is poking me in the foot?
Yeah.
And you'll like go in there and like grab a pair of like needle nose pliers and you'll pull a fucking like a metal shaving through the rest of your shoe.
Yeah.
It's like this fucking long.
Yeah. Or out of your foot.
Yeah, or out of your foot.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the worst too, when you would get like those really fine like metal splinters.
Ugh.
Like in the creases of your fingers.
Yeah. And
like you could hardly even see them, but you knew they were there.
Right.
And you'd have to get like a pair of calipers or something and pull it out or pull it out of your hand. Did you ever see where they would pull the tray out from underneath the mill?
Oh,
where
yeah.
all like the runoff coolant went, and it would
coagulated
into like these boogers.
Yeah. With all those metal shavings.
Yeah, it's just the most just toxic looking thing you've ever seen in your life. And it's like, where does that go to be treated? Can it be treated? Is there just a big hole in the ground somewhere where we're putting this?
There's so much shit inside of a like a machine shop that can kill the fuck out of you.
Oh yeah, in an instant. Yeah.
You wouldn't even realize it happened.
Yeah. Like the machine they used to cut the sheets with.
Oh yeah,
back there,
that big
like
bandsaw.
Yeah, next to the open acid baths. I hated walking by those acid baths because there was just like a wooden platform next to it, and it was like all eaten away.
Ugh.
And then the oldest man in the world back there worked with him, Billy.
He's just like asleep half the time. He's like, go back there. He's passed out in a chair.
He's got like an arm like resting on the side of the acid bath.
He's like standing up.
There's no telling what kind of cancer you're just riddled with, buddy. You're just a big walking tumor.
I don't know. I sort of like that job. Like, it was sort of like, especially like running like the same part over and over and over again. Like, I like checking them. I like doing the deburring part of it on the wheel and everything.
I couldn't stand that job. It's just the monotony of it got to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I think what it was is it was such a long day.
No.
Because it was, 11-hour shifts?
No.
11 or 12 hours? You're there for 12 hours, but you get an hour for lunch.
Right.
So a total of 11 hours. And, like, it just fucking, you show up in the morning and it's dark outside, and then you're inside all day long, and then you leave and it's dark again, and you're just sad. Well, on that note, I think that's about all we got time for, everybody. So, once again, thank you so much for listening. I apologize for missing last week's upload. We just the weekend just got away from us. Like, I think it was like Monday came around, and I was sitting at work, and it dawned on me. I was like, we didn't fucking record this weekend. And I texted Wes, and he was like, oh yeah. So yeah, I apologize for that. We'll try not to let that happen again. I have been looking at, like I said before, several times, our downloads are increasing. If you look at our little line graph over time, like every month, the numbers keep going up and up and up. So if you are new to the podcast, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you've enjoyed so far. Make sure you give us a follow on the Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter, but there's nothing going on over there. Because like I said, we don't know how to log into it. We created it and then immediately lost the ability to log into it. So yeah, Wesley, do you have anything you'd like to close with?
Nope. As always, just thank you so much for the continued support. Make sure that you leave a like, a rating, or a review on your favorite your favorite podcast platform. That's really hard to get out. And so, just thank you so much. We really do appreciate the continued support. If you have somebody that you think might like the podcast, please share it with them. Probably don't share it with close family members like your mother
or your grandmother.
It's
our mom listens too. So.
Probably not for them, but we do appreciate the continued support. I'm sure that Mom will enjoy the part about Brie Larson's titties.
I did. Well, all right, everybody, that's the podcast. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
Miwiki, oui.